right?
No, you're fine. You know, okay, cool. For a second there, Skype was acting up and wouldn't let me record anything. So I was like, uh-oh, what's happening here? But no, we're all good now. So no professional background needed. You
Uh,
see, mine's just a bunch of pictures and junk. So,
they look like good posters at least.
so appreciate you man coming on for. I mean, this was kind of a snap of a finger, kind of let's do it, jump on.
Yeah, I kind of
So
just threw that out there, assuming like, oh, maybe you're free. I don't know. Well, I've got the night to myself. I thought I'll just do this. And then you were like, yeah, cool. I'm like, oh, shit. You called my bluff,
well,
sir.
you know, I learned during this industry, doing this entertainment business, that be ready for anything at any time, anywhere. So I was kind of like, you know what? I have the morning not doing anything, so let's go ahead and let's just not really get it over with, but let's just shoot it and maybe we'll have a good conversation here.
That's good. Sounds like a good idea. Good plan. And we follow through with it. So
And we
you're
followed
obviously
through.
not just some fake account on Facebook like most of the other ones that were hitting me up. Is this some
Oh, really?
plan for
You
me
had a
to
lot
get
of people hit
Bitcoin
you
at
up.
some point?
Whatever you want to promote, dude.
No, not me. I don't know anything about it. I literally just got offered that just before when I was talking to you. They're like, oh, are you interested in all this sort of like,
Oh,
all those
gotcha.
coins? I'm like, oh, go away.
Well, man, look, I kind of saw your. I think you had like shared it over Facebook. I seen it. I seen the Creepy Crap podcast somehow on Facebook. Maybe you were promoting it or something had happened, and I was like, I
I
wonder what
did pay
this
for
is.
an
You know,
ad
I'm
recently.
into. Okay, that may have been what it was, and I was like, this is interesting because Halloween's coming up. Uh, I enjoy I enjoy horror films. I enjoy everything about horror and movies and everything like that. And then I was kind of stalking your profile, and I saw that you had my friend David Howard Thornton on, Art the
Oh, yeah.
Clown, which was very fascinating because he's a alumni of the podcast as well. And how did that podcast go with you guys? Cause for me, it was like kind of because Terrifier is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Once I watched it, so it was kind of like
Yeah.
a not really a dream come true, but it was kind of like okay, I can nerd out a little bit here because we kind of nerded out together about different things.
Yeah. I don't know. There wasn't any like the podcast is just me, by the way, if you didn't realize
Hmm.
that. Um, but yeah, I literally just messaged him. I was like getting like a little bit confident with like people I was talking about. Like I used to just sort of
Uh
talk
huh.
to other podcasters, and then I was like, I think he liked the photo like straight away, and I was like, he's active, and I was like, I'll jump on that. I'll. He's using an account that seems to be alive, so yeah, I literally just messaged and he was like, yeah, maybe. And I thought, oh, yeah, because a few people I'd messaged about being on the podcast were like, yeah, I will. Soon, after this, after, whatever excuse, and then never get back. And I was like, oh, here we go. And then, yeah, he messaged me back like not long after and was like, yeah, I'm free this time if you are. I'm like, holy shit. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Can we swear
Hmm.
on here, by the way?
Hmm. You say whatever you want.
Oh, okay, cool. um, yeah, and it was just like, yeah, like a heaps nice as you would know, like just a fucking cool guy. I was just so surprised, and he was so willing to chat. I felt bad because I was like, I'm gonna fucking bore him out at some point. So I wrapped it up after like near an hour, but I felt like he would have chatted for ages. How long did you talk to him for?
A little over an hour, and we were just not getting into the deep of the conversation within an hour. But then I was like, you know what? I have to be respectful of this guy's time.
Yeah,
Anybody that comes on, I'm respectful of the time. It doesn't matter, who it is, and it's like, and because he's from like 30 miles over into the other state, and so we kind of were chatting about that. But yeah, it was kind of the same situation. I realized who it was, and I private messaged him over on Instagram, and it was like, "Sure, I'm available here, here, here. If you are, let's do it." And that's kind of how it was with you, exactly like that.
yeah,
Down to
he's
earth guy.
awesome. Yeah, that was virtually the same sort of thing I was doing. I was like, with him, because other podcasts you chat for ages because you're just sort of like friendly and you whatever like that. But with him, yeah, I felt like he wanted to keep talking, and I was like, no, I'll wrap it up while it's still in the primo questions, like not before you get too far, and you're like, so what other horror movie, and you just start fucking like pulling out whatever you can think of, and you can tell they're a bit like, you're done with me, just end this, or they're too polite to say anything, so they keep going, and anyone listening would just be like, oh, let the guy go.
What was cool for me was I figured once I call everyone that comes on here my friends, because it just seems like that after you get done talking this long conversation. And me and him, after the podcast, had a conversation over Instagram. It was cool because he was actually able to record over a voice memo and saying, hey, this is David Howard Thornton, and you listen to the podcast, yada, yada. And then he put his own twist on it, and he made kind of like how Art the Clown he thought would sound if Art the Clown talked. And it was fantastic. I was like, holy crap. I never thought to ask him what he thought the voice would sound like. He was very adamant when I asked him. It was like, he'll never have a voice. And I never thought to push it past that point. Oh, I got to listen to that episode, man. That sounds interesting. I got him to do a Joker voice. It was so cool. I'm actually pulling it up right now, and I'll let you listen to it, see if it'll come through on my microphone here. Because it's pretty cool. So real quick, while I pull this up, tell everybody your background on podcasting and your show.
Oh, yeah, sure. My name's Daniel Craig. I do the Creepy Crap podcast. It's just me. I'm a solo podcaster. Essentially, I've only been going since pretty much, I'd say, the start of the year. Like, it was December 31st of last year, but I mean, who gives a shit? But it was like basically the majority of this year. And it's just me. It was like my way of like not annoying everyone in the house, of going every time something's on. I still do that, but it's like, it was like a therapy of not being like, hey, behind the door, like, like the guy who fucking talks through every movie. It's like, oh, shut the fuck up and let me watch a movie. And I was like listening to podcasts. And I was like, and I bought a microphone I needed for my university stuff. So I was like, wait, why don't I try my hand at podcasting? And then I was like, no one's done that before. No, but it was like, it was just like, I was thought, well, cool, I can talk about shitty movies. And I just thought it went with the name like the Creepy Crap, because like a lot of the ones that related to that sort of similar theme were already taken. So I was like, I need something with 2 letters, but it's only just my way of watching movies, because I don't do the good movies that often, because I just find it's hard to, I don't know, I don't have the words to describe them, like, oh, it's a masterpiece, it's this, it's that. It's so much easier to just rag on a shitty movie that, and half the time I like them, but that's essentially what the podcast is me watching crap movies. I do them really quick. They're about 20-minute episodes most of the time, and I just talk really quick as if I don't take a breath, unlike me answering this question. And that's basically it. It's just me, Australian horror podcast, crappy movies mostly, and yeah, that's it. Just something to do to fill my time in on my days off.
I'm gonna play this real quick because he does the what he thinks Art the Clown sounds like at the end, and then we'll get into the podcast.
Yeah, man, I'm keen to hear it.
Hey, this is David Howard Thornton, Art the Clown himself, from the movie Terrifier, the upcoming Terrifier 2, and you're listening to the HodgePodge Podcast. See you later.
Can you hear that? Did you hear it okay?
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, because I'd asked him, and we'll get off the Art the Clown thing here in a second, but I asked him, is it easier to remain silent in a film and just be like a mime, or is it 10 times harder to do that, because you don't have to remember any lines or anything like that. And so
yeah, that's a point.
I put Terrifier in there with, like Creepy Crap, like it's a low budgeted movie. It's really, really creepy, and a lot of people haven't seen it. And the people that have seen it, it has turned into a cult classic for those guys.
Yeah, that's a great way of summing it up, because that's essentially what that movie is. It's like it's like if you have a Netflix account, you've either watched it or haven't, but there's not a whole lot of other ways to get it. At least in Australia, it's not very easy to buy at the shops. It's like a very limited run. If you have to get it, it's like eBay, and it's already like $30-$40. Like, it's like a collector's item already. I'm like, fucking hell. I'm like, I hope when the second one comes out, like, it'll make that more available again. But yeah, it's not that known. It's just in the horror community, everyone would know about it because it's just like he's the new popular clown sort of thing. He's the next one to go in the Hall of Fame of clowns sort of thing. But yeah, it's a next level. It's not, he's so evil. And the fact that, yeah, he doesn't make a single sound at all. Like, I mean, there's plenty of killers who don't say a sound, like Michael and all that sort of shit. But I don't know, it seems creepier when they've got like a full face, not just a mask. Seems easier not to say a word when you got a mask.
I also think it's freakier to see a clown not saying anything than to see a guy in a hockey mask or a guy in a William Shatner painted mask. You know, because a lot of people are scared of clowns. That's their biggest fear, and for that to reimagine that in a different type of horror film, it was kind of creepy. Even though I'm not that freaked out about clowns, it was still creepy in that fact.
I was going to say, what do you think it is that scares people about clowns? Like, I never understand. I love clowns. I think they're like one of the best things ever, but I never understand why people are so scared of them. Like, why do you reckon that? Have you got a thought on that one? I was always curious why people hate them.
Well, I have a cousin. He's scared to death of clowns. And I've never really asked him about it because he's so scared he doesn't want to talk about it. And, you know, maybe it's just face paint. I think it's kind of the same thing with people that are like in costumes. You don't really know what they look like. You don't know what they're going to do. You know, that's my workaway around it.
Yeah, it just seems like the more you think about it, the less scary it could be. But I don't know. I never understood. Like, you don't see little kids at the fair with their face painted, and you're like, holy shit! Like, you know, the girl's got butterflies on her cheeks. But, you know, you paint yourself white with just a little bit more paint on it, and suddenly you're the scariest person in town. I never understood it. But a lot of people are fucking scared of them, though. They hate them.
So what is it about, for you, horror independent films otherwise than the studio produced horror films? Are they better than the high budgeted ones, or are they just so terrible that they're good?
My thing's not specifically independent. It's just more like ones that are like low rating on like Internet Movie Database. That's mainly what I try to. I don't like specifically go for that. Like, I could do like Leprechaun 5 or something like that. It's not. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but like most of them are kind of independent movies and shit like that. Like, just because, like, half the time it's just searching through Prime Video or some sort of shit, and then like Tubi, that's full of great stuff, and it's just like something that grabs my attention, and you're like, oh, look at this. It looks like it's trying to be good, and then you watch it, and or you look it up, and it's got a rating of like 2 or something, and you're like 2 out of 10. You're like, oh, this is going to be good. But sometimes they surprise me. The ones that know their shit and then end up being like really good, I'm like, I'm not like below that one. I'm like, oh, I'm not fucking horror comedies, but like Zombievers and stuff like that. Like, you know, ones that like, it's such a stupid, crappy idea, but it's done well enough and they know exactly what they are. So it's enjoyable to watch because they know it's stupid and cheesy, but, you know, they make the most of it. Whereas like some are so shitty, but then they try to make it a serious movie, and that's what makes it crap and not enjoyable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and here's where I stand on like the Rotten Tomato scales. For me, I usually like the lower scored movies than the higher ones because I don't really know what it is. It's like my family will be watching the movie and we realize like, what's the Rotten Tomato score? It's like 40%, and we're automatically like, oh, it's going to be good. Just because I imagine Rotten Tomatoes people that are scoring the movies are like these 80-year-old people that like the boring, they talk the whole time and movies like that. But yeah, Terrifier was one of those that didn't get that high of a score. And a lot of those movies that are kind of like I think they call it the Blumhouse, those productions that don't really get those high ratings. And I think those are some of the best horror movies.
Yeah, they're hit and miss, that company. It seems like you either got ones that are interesting, but yeah, they specifically, that company gives. I heard someone talking about it the other day, like that company does something, I don't know the exact logistics, but their whole company is there to give independent directors a shot or something like that. But then it's just some of the movies they make obviously aren't that good or whatever like that. But yeah, like you're saying, like that 40% thing, it's like it sounds like you and your family you rather give the underdog movie a go than, you know, something like It or something that, you know, everyone's already fucking talked about a billion times. And it's like, yeah, it's a masterpiece, or not so specifically that, but you know what I mean? Like everyone's already talking about that. It's like, let's give this one a go and get something that, you know, people haven't seen a billion times already.
I want to talk about...
Should word things like questions once in a while.
I want to talk to you real quick about... No, you're good. About kind of like horror movies that were great, and then they just had so many sequels that they had to go independent or like the Sci-Fi Channel. Because for me, my favorite horror movie is like Jeepers Creepers. That was made like the early 2000s. And they made a great sequel, the second one, and then the third one was just so long down the line that Sci-Fi picked it up and it was an independent film. So what are some of those, like Leprechaun, like you had like Lost in Space or Ghost to the Hood? Those
I literally did
terrible,
Jeepers Creepers 3. That was
what did you think about that?
Yeah, it was like you said. It was like they did the first ones very close to each other. They were very similar stories. And then the third one, they just made him like some weird guy, virtually just... Like at one point, he looks like he's just fishing in the river. He's in a farm. Like it's almost more about the car in the third one, but it's just shitty. Like I don't know, something about it being filmed in the daytime didn't make it scary. Whereas like the first one had such a creepy mystery to it where, you know, it's like, what's this guy in the van doing with that tunnel over there? And I don't know, it just was not enjoyable at all. It was just like, I don't know. And they made, I think, like the heartthrob of the movie was some little redhead guy with like tons of freckles. I couldn't get over how many freckles the guy's face had. It was crazy. I'm like, wait, is this the love interest? Like, I haven't seen any other guys pop up yet. Like, a freckled face kid's cheaper or something.
I will disagree to a certain point. I enjoyed the movie. It may be me being biased because I enjoyed the first two so much. But there were certain parts where I was like, like when they, for instance, when they grabbed the hand and they kind of saw what the creeper was, and then what got me was kind of like, are you serious? They did this was, for some reason, he was going back to that farm to look for a hand, and he still had both of his hands. And then on a piece of cardboard, they have, "We know what you are," and they nailed his hand to the cardboard. He grabs it, screams, and rips the hand in half. That was kind of, what are you doing? Like, it didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and that the hand at one point could be like a terracotta pot could hold it down without it moving. And then afterwards, a guy who weighs 100-something kilos is holding one hand literally on its own and getting like choked and lifted in the air. It's like, who's controlling this hand? Is this still controlled by him, or would this hand eventually grow into another Jeepers Creeper, whatever the fuck it is? Like, yeah, that was the thing. But like, don't get me wrong, I love the sequels, like, to a lot of these movies, because at least if you like the first one, it's like, it gets dragged out and watered down or whatever else. But I'm all for them still. I like the crappy movies because I still have an interest in them. It's just that, like, at least you're getting more of the movie still. Like, if you love Hellraiser, and he's made like 8 movies, or I think it is, or 8 with Doug Bradley, and then it goes to there's at least 2 more now that is like random actors. least that's still, if you love the story so much, it's a little bit more of it. You're just getting that little bit extra. It's like, you know, you want dinner, but you're still hungry and someone's giving you dessert and here's something else. You're like, well, it's not the dinner, but it's giving me some sort of nutrition. That's my metaphor for sequels.
Yeah. And
fucking deep, wasn't it?
Creepers, the third one, there was something they did with it that I really enjoyed. And that was the inside of his truck. I enjoyed how they made that come to life. That was probably the highlight of the movie was, wow, you can actually see him. He's listening into the radio. That's how he figures out where everybody's at. And then it was just one of those, it was focused on the truck more or less than the creeper. I see where you're coming from, but it was a bad
the fourth
sequel,
movie to be about the car.
Well, do you think they're going to bring back that girl from the first one? Because that's what the third one was supposed to initially be about. Was they were supposed to bring the girl that got her brother taken away from the first one.
Yeah. She's like literally in it for that last scene or something, right? Like it ends as if like it's hinting to something else, but then nothing else happened. You're like, oh, okay. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a good movie. It was just like certain scenes, but yeah, like you said, it was cool seeing all the car shit and all that sort of stuff. But I talked about it on like with the people I chatted to on the episode, but it was like we had the question of like, what's the car doing the whole 23 years or whatever when the creeper's sleeping or hidden away? Is that car independently doing all this stuff? And then when he wakes up, it has to like go back to where he is.
Wow, that's a good point. I've never thought about it that way. What is the vehicle doing while the 23 years is when he's initially in sober or in soberling, whatever you want to call it, while he's asleep. That's a great point. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like, does it not need petrol, and like who's keeping up with it? And the fact that it's been around for so long, but then it's also a car that's only 50 years old or so. It's kind of like, does it naturally sort of upgrade itself into the next one? Or like, I don't know. It's like, it's got these ancient bone fucking spears and all this sort of shit that shoots out that are like thousands of years old, but it's in a car that's only 50 years old. And I don't know. There's a lot of questions where I feel like an in-depth movie about the car would be fucking interesting. People would be like, it's just called Beating You, like the license plate. They'd be like, that's what the movie should be called. And it'd just be fucking interesting. Like, focus on that a little bit more, where it's like, okay, every 23 years on the 23rd day or whatever like that. It's like, this is what happened on the 24th day. And now it focuses on the car. Like, all right, my master's gone to sleep now for 23 years. It's my time to shine. And then we just watch adventures of the car fucking up people. Like a modern day Christine.
Well, here's my other problem with the Jeepers Creepers 3 thing. You said like the love interest was initially an ugly redheaded freckle faced kid. It was just called like it is.
No
and
offense to anyone
movie, we see,
of that description.
No offense. Spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, we see the guy getting on the bus, and supposedly this movie was taking place between 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So my problem with it was, why couldn't you get someone that looked like that were on the bus from the second one and make it look like that was their story? Because it was like the guy, there's not even a person that resembles this guy in the second one.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I didn't think of that. He's not in the fucking movie. It's not like they brought him back and then like made him look younger or some shit. It's like, he's very fucking recognizable. Like, his face looks like it's been splattered with shit. It's pretty noticeable that he's fucking not in the second one. Like, I don't know. That's a great point. Like, they couldn't have got anyone, or just have a cameo at the end where he's not there, but one of the people are like, come on, man, get on the bus. And it's someone from the movie.
And that's kind of where I draw the line where, like, I hate it so much that I have to like it. I have to enjoy it. And
it's under your skin.
So what are some of your favorite, blockbuster horror movies that they released all these sequels, and the sequels turned out to be crap.
Oh God. Sorry, I'm just topping my drink up. Drinks.
What are you drinking? You drinking some?
It's literally just Diet Coke.
Okay.
It's nothing strong. I'm pure, boy.
I'm just curious.
Are you drinking, or is it like the morning there?
No, I'm drinking these.
Sorry, is this it? I can't tell if you cut bits out.
Oh, hey, dude, nothing is edited out. It's all.
Oh, okay, that'll be.
Here. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
sorry,
I'm drinking this. I call Body Armors. They're kind of like a. They're made with coconut water and has a lot of electrolytes, and it's like I think this has like 120 calories for like a bottle and a half. So they're kind of a good health for you. Kind of like they kind of taste like a smoothie drink type of feel.
Nice. That's good. Yeah, to answer your question, sorry, I got sidetracked.
No, you're okay.
Drink. I'm telling you about the drinks. Yeah, Hellraiser's a good one because that starts strong and then goes downhill, and then like the 9th one has some guy with huge fucking weird black eyes. That's a very strange one. Some of them stand pretty good throughout them, like they're consistently the same and all that. Like a lot of people would be like, oh, Halloween, but I don't hate Resurrection and all those sort of ones as much as a lot of people normally do, but like Final Destination, that got a little shitty in 1 or 2. Like the 4th one went a bit shit, but then it kind of redeemed itself a bit.
Let me stop you for Halloween because I was talking to this. They're called the Cinemondo Podcast. I talked to them last year, and they were telling me about the Halloweens, about how you're not supposed to watch 2, 3, 4 to on. You're supposed to watch the original from like 78, whenever that movie was made, and then you're supposed to skip ahead to the brand new one that was just made like 2016. Like you're supposed to.
Yeah. The rest is.
And that's one of the confused. Well, that was my thing was because we saw in H2O 20 years later the Halloween where Jamie Lee Curtis she had a son in the film, and then you don't see a daughter. Yeah. And then in the new one, the son is nowhere to be mentioned, and she has a daughter all of a sudden. And that's kind of where they brought up the fact that you have to just watch the one from 78 and then watch the one from 2016 because it's a direct sequel. And I'm like, so when she was in the hospital from the direct first one and the second one, that has nothing to do with the story.
And like Resurrection starts with her in a hospital as well. It's like, wait, does Resurrection pick up from that point? But they're like, I don't watch them as much. Like, I don't know the backstory. That's not one that I'm always like, oh, I fucking love him. But like, I don't know if it goes from like Laurie Strode ends up being the fucking babysitter at one point, and then it's a sister, and then it's like there's a relation, and then like like there's all these loose sort of like they change the storylines all the time. It's just like I don't know, it's a different director each time or some shit. It's just like follow the storyline. You don't see like I don't know. I never really noticed that, and then it's like the third one's like completely independent to the rest of them, and there's a whole bunch like that, and it's like, what is it like? I think Resurrection directly undermines H2O as well. Like someone like I think she dies or some shit. Like she dies in Resurrection. I think it's one of them. She dies. I think it's Resurrection. She sort of like sacrifices herself or whatever happens, some bullshit. She drops off the roof, and then it's like, they just blur it to me, those movies. I always forget. Same with like Friday the 13th. A lot of them are so similar. It's like,
right.
You can't remember what death is what. Like, but she dies, and then it's like, you've got the next one where she's alive again. I'm like, make your mind up.
Or what really irritates me is, and I kind of saw this as a trend from like the 80s and the early 90s, was Friday the 13th Part 4. Jason dies. Jason goes to hell. And then there's a Friday the 13th Part 5 where he's resurrected. And then in Part 6, he dies again. 7, he's resurrected. 10, he dies again. I'm just like, is he dead? Is he alive? Please make your mind up, because you're kind of really... And it's kind of like I'm not a fan of those psychological thrillers, like where they play with your mind, kind of like Insidious and stuff like that. I'm not really a fan of those type of horror movies. And to me, that's what they're doing with the Freddy Krueger, the Jason Voorhees, and because it's kind of making you think, like, wait a second, because you have to go back and watch 1 and watch 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to watch 12, because the story changes so much. Like I said, Halloween, it's just, what are you doing?
And it doesn't make any sense that, like, it's like, oh, Jason 5, Jason dies and all this sort of shit. I'm like, he dies in all of them. Like, what's the point of putting, like, that's the teaser. Oh, he dies in this one, as if, like, he hadn't died in the previous 4 movies and shit like this. Like, it's not like it's a character that has never died before, and then the movie's called that, and you're like, holy shit. Like, I don't know. It's weird that, like, that was the time. It felt like that time, like early 80s, 90s, that sort of stuff, or like building up to the 90s. It was like every movie was big on the comeback, the, resurrection, like everyone bringing back to life, as if like someone just recently in Hollywood was like, hey, did you hear about voodoo? And they're like, no, what is it? And they're like, you can bring people back from the dead. They're like, let's make 1 million movies with that fucking topic. It's like, they just did all the same sort of things. And then, like, I don't know, space was popular at some point. So, like, every movie, like, had to have that fucking sequel that went to space. Friday the 13th did it. Like, tons of them.
And that's what's weird. They call it Jason 10. And they never explained how he went to space and how he got out of space. And then 11 is just right back to Camp Crystal Lake. And it's like, come on, what are we doing here?
Yeah, even if he fell from space, it's like, what? And then went back 2,000, like, however many hundreds of years. Like, it's just suddenly like, I'm back. And it's like, I don't know. I always love that in the movies. So it's the same sort of shit. Like, they go there. There's always the resident expert in a movie where no one's fucking talked about the movie whatsoever. And then they just show up and they're like, hey, where the fuck are we? I've got no idea where we are. And then someone who doesn't know where they were 10 minutes ago, suddenly like, hey, wait, that reminds me. And then they tell you the backstory of this whole fucking thing. I'm like, why? You don't know who this person is. Like fair enough. Like, if he was famous, but I don't think Jason was that famous in the real world that, like, someone in 200, 300 years in the future would be like, Jason? That reminds me of Jason, the guy who died at that Crystal Camp place. And it was like, no, you don't know that shit. Camp Crystal Lake, I mean.
That's kind of like Child's Play for me, because the first one was fantastic. Second one was good, not as good as the first. And then they just went down, and then they did like The Bride of Chucky, The Seed of Chucky, and it's just like, and then they did that terrible remake last year, and it's like, man.
Yeah. There's a show as well, I think, getting made, but if it's still happening or not, I'm not sure.
Serious?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it's meant to look like. I heard that the original Brad Dourif is going to do the voice, but I don't know. You hear so much shit, you never know it's true until it happens. You're like, oh, cool, but I don't know if it's going to look like the remake one or they go back to the original look. I don't know, mate. I don't know.
Well,
do you like the gory movies?
Well, Terrifier is a gory movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it depends. Like, there's a lot of independent films that I haven't seen. But which one do you talk about? Because gory to me,
like the ones that are like
super
else. Fucked up, like ones where you're like, oh man, like
so like the Rob Zombie ones, like the
like
from
even
Hell
worse, like Serbian film. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
Oh, don't look it up. It's just like that, or like I guess like lesser down. Like there's ones that are like too fucked, and then there's like Human Centipede, sort of like creepy ass shit like that.
I saw that. The Human Centipede is. Have you seen that movie Teeth?
No, that's the vagina one.
That is, but she has teeth. That's kind of screwed up, like the Human Centipede in a certain way, because it's kind of like they're kind of. It's like they're running out of ideas for horror films and just films in general that they just have to keep making these ridiculous plots and characters.
That's kind of like what some of these movies are these days, is just, they're like, what's everyone seeing now? They're like, all right, well, what's the most fucked up thing we can think of? And they just get to like, that's what some of the ones that are like, don't hold back. And you just watch and you're like, oh, fuck. Like, it's always them fucking something that's just shouldn't be fucked at that point. And you're just like, oh, you're fucked. I was just wondering, like, I wasn't sure if you're like more like the normal sort of horrors. And then there's like that, you know, the deep dive down and you're just like, oh. I'm not too big of a fan of them. I like bloody ones, but not ones that are fucked up for the sake of it. There's a line.
I think the goriest one horror film I've probably seen. It probably has to be either Terrifier or the three Rob Zombie movies that he made, like the Three from Hell, and then the
yeah. Devil's Rejects and House
those
and
Devil's Rejects, right? That's probably it's probably my max. Where I'm kind of like, you know, blood is okay, but when you just kind of like a Terrifier when he took the hammer and he just smashed the guy's face in and exploded his head, that was kind of a little too much for my taste. Just
don't look up what I mentioned then.
I'm not going to. I'm not going to.
Yeah. Yeah, Terrifier is pretty fucked up. That whole like cutting the girl in half thing was pretty fucked. Like that's pretty brutal. And did he say that he's like... that? Sorry, what was that?
Did you talk to David about that scene?
A little bit. I didn't talk to him because I kind of like assumed he'd been asked that a billion times, so I didn't. But I kind of wish I did. I just more asked about it, and then he just said that like the next one's even worse. I'm like, oh, I was like, how do you top that?
What was weird for me was when I do these shows and I have like guests that have done a lot of like you know, like big musicians or big movie stars or people like that, I usually kind of ask the same questions they get, but then kind of halfway through I kind of stop that and just go in as, okay, what would I like to hear him talk about that he doesn't ever talk about versus what he likes to. And that's kind of what I did. I brought up the fact that when he cut the girl in half, and he was saying that they had to, because she was upside down the whole scene. So that scene took, I think he said 2 days to do, because she could only be upside down for 30 seconds and have to be up for 15 minutes. Shit. So they would go, action, and she'd go down, they'd count to 30, and then he'd have to stop what he's doing, they'd have to reposition it for 15 minutes to get the blood flow back going.
Just turn the camera upside down. Problem solved.
I want to talk to you right now about remakes. Like, what are some, because there are a lot of remakes in my mind that are better or as good as the original horror films.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So were you going to list some, or are you just asking me?
Well, I think we can go back and forth, like you say.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Well, which one do you think?
I don't want to like cut you off if you were like you just started talking about him, and I'm like, yeah, I've got. Hey, wait.
So go first, and then I'll go, and then you go.
Okay, like some remakes I like.
You see how professional we are here, huh?
I know. I'm like, oh shit! I should have had like, if I like do it in the room where all my movies are, I'd be like, oh, let me just answer that. I'm like,
let me turn around.
I'm outside. There's no movies here. No. Oh yeah, remakes. Probably the one that like an easy one that comes to mind that fucking kicks ass, and the second one after that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, easily one of the best remakes. And the beginning I enjoyed as well, because they're all the same people from the remake in that one again, and you get the backstory of like why his legs and shit, the teeth.
That's like, they made one, I think it's called Leatherface. Have you saw that one? Where he was like a teenager, and I didn't really like that one as much as the original remakes, but I thought it was pretty decent for what it was.
Yeah, the newest one's the only one that gets. Maybe is that I honestly blend in because there's like there's Leatherface, there's 3D, there's a few that came after that. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 that literally just blend in, and then I think the newest one is the one where you think it's this big dopey kid, and there's a good looking sort of guy, and then he's
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh yeah. That's the only one where you're like, the only thing at the end, I'm like, that guy was like 20. It's like, his face gets fucked up. Fair enough. Like, that's a decent backstory. It should have been the big fucking dopey kid in that movie that he was with the whole time. He's the one who should have got his face fucked up. And you're like, because he's kind of like, and then he cuts his face. He would have been the perfect Leatherface, because then he just gets like, he's embarrassed. He becomes big and angry and all that sort of stuff. Like, the only thing I never understood was, how did that guy become him?
That's what I'm saying, because that's kind of where it blends in for me. Is I thought Leatherface was supposed to be a mentally retarded guy in the original. You know, that's kind of what they proclaimed it to be. But then in this one, the guy's just kind of crazy, and it's kind of like, well, that doesn't make sense, because the original Leatherface was crazy. Then he wouldn't be acting like a child and sucking his thumb. You know, like in the second one, the radio
he's not
DJ.
Like completely controlled by his whole family, like, you know, Bubba, go get the fucking thing and all this sort of stuff. Like, it was like they went for a mislead in that movie, but it was like they shouldn't have. Like, they had the big dopey guy who looks retarded, and then he's massive and he's young, where it could easily be him growing up, and it would have been perfect. That was a perfect character right there. And then they gave it to the thin, smaller guy who's like the main guy throughout the movie, the nice guy essentially. And then he gets cut on the face, and then that's enough for him to be like, oh, I'm going to go live with the family that wasn't my family now. And then I'm going to grow 2 more meters and become massive. And I don't know. I never understood why they didn't go with the other guy in that movie. It's crazy. You had the perfect prequel right there.
I agree. I agree that the Texas Chainsaw. No, I get passionate about movies as well, because I'm just a big movie nerd. I'm a big music nerd, movie nerd, and it's just like I could talk all day about this type of stuff. But Texas Chainsaw is a great remake. All those sequels are great remakes.
What was yours?
I enjoyed the remake of Friday the 13th. It had that Jared Paladinaki guy in it.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best, but I did enjoy it. It was kind of because it was kind of like a reimagining of it in a certain sense, because like you know in the original, it's Jason's mother, and for people that are kind of like, well, how does Jason Voorhees come about the thing? And in this one, it's kind of more dumbed down and kind of, oh, it's just Jason. You know, his mother is just in his mind and his body and stuff like that. So I think Friday the 13th is a great remake, even though they didn't make that many after that. I do think Friday the 13th kind of dried up Texas on that, Chainsaw. Well, they're supposed to be making a new one, a part 2 to the one they remake. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I like that. And there's like the water skiing scene and all that sort of shit. There's like, because that's a cool one. It's like a modern version of like, oh shit, sorry. Don't drop things near a microphone. Yeah, it was a good movie. I enjoyed that. It wasn't the worst. Like, I think, I don't know, like there's remakes that get a lot of like, no one seems to like the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. Have you heard that yet? Or do you ever see that one get bashed? Because everyone's like, it's not Robert Englund.
Right. Well, okay. I don't care if Robert Englund is playing the Freddy Krueger, but I do think they could have made Freddy Krueger look a little bit more like the original in the remake. That was just my takeaway from it, because in the Nightmare on Elm Street, I enjoyed how the remake, by the way, enjoyed how they did show a background in one movie, and they kind of showed you what happened, why it happened. I did enjoy that for a certain
It's
point.
like then you was like, we've only got one movie here. Let's put it all into one movie. Let's not give a ton of backstories. Can I ask one question? Like, what was it like talking to Murr?
Ask whatever you want. And you can ask whatever you want, by the way. You know, he was only on for like 3 or 4 minutes. So I didn't really get to ask. I didn't really get to ask a whole lot. It was kind of cool. So how that came about was I had entered into this. I think it was he was releasing a book, and I had bought the book and got FaceTime from over. He was supposed to be reading the book to you or something along those lines. And he was talking to me before and after that was happening, and I was recording it on a separate cell phone or something like that. And I had messaged his people. I'm like, look, I recorded him talking to me before and after whatever he was supposed to be doing, and it's like 3.5 minutes. I do a podcast, and I would love to just put this 3.5 minutes on. It has nothing. I can send it over to you if you want to listen to it. It has nothing. It doesn't reveal anything. And they were like, sure, go ahead and post it. And that's kind of where we were at now. And so between that, I kind of talked to the managers. Because I think they share the same production company management same. So
it's just him pretending to be a manager.
Right. So I because of that, there's been talks of getting all 4 of them on at one point. Don't know if that's going to happen. I hope so. It's a dream because I really enjoy them. Oh my God, it's going to be brutal.
I wouldn't even.
Brutal.
I'm so nervous. Brian Quinn's the best.
You know,
Q.
I don't really get nervous anymore. You know, there are some times when I have this major songwriter on or something like that, and kind of, you know, you get butterflies in your stomach, and you're like, I better be good at this because this is going to make a standpoint of how good of an interviewer you are.
Yeah.
But once I interviewed,
play a confident character.
Right. But once I interviewed, you know, like Murr or like Smo, Upchurch, you know, and all those people from like America's Got Talent, and no way am I bragging. It's just I'm trying to say
it's
trying
cool,
to make
man.
a
I
point
wasn't
here. I know. But you know how listeners can be. They're brutal.
No,
sometimes.
it's different if you were name dropping it for like absolutely no reason. Like you're like, how was your weekend? Yeah, it was good. Like Murray always said, he was a guest, by the way. Like you do a shit like that, and people like fuck, we get it, mate. You talk to Murray, like you talk about him like all the time. Or James Murray.
And it's what's weird for kind of for them is, and I don't want to give away my secrets of how I do this and stuff, but you know, I don't write down any questions. It's all kind of what I want to know, but I do my fair share of research. Yeah. I mean, I have my fair share of research, so I kind of know. And the one thing I do get nervous about is.
No, it's good.
Just pretend. I got 26 notes about Daniel Crapster here. But yeah, it's just the one nervous that I do get is this person going to be talkative or not? Because that's the worst type of guest you can get is when they just give you one word answers. And I'm like, why did you do the podcast anyways? You know, you're going to be talking.
I've heard a lot of people say that's about people.
Oh my God. It's just, I had this one guy on. He was, I want to do it. And I said, okay. I carved my schedule out for this guy because I believe in independent people so much. Just because I'm that way and people gave me a chance. So I love giving other people a chance.
Yeah.
And I was like, so man, tell me about this song. You know, I don't really know. I rode it in the truck one night. What?
So fucking in-depth. Thank you.
And then I would say, well, who do you look up to as heroes? You know, man, I don't really look up to no one else as heroes. You know, maybe my dad, maybe. I'm like,
shitty answers.
Why did you want to do this podcast? And it was like a 15-minute podcast. And I kind of got a dick in the middle of the podcast because I was like, hey, dude, you need to give me something. You got to give me something. You're giving me nothing to go on. And it was kind of, he said, okay, man, I apologize. I'm just a little nervous. And then the second time he did it, I was like, okay, just tell people about your song. We're done here. And it kind of made me come off as a dick, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I took away an hour.
Like you're berating your guests or something. You're like, well, fuck.
Right.
Why? I don't get why they would push to be on the show. Because I've heard other podcasters who talk to like sort of bigger people as well. Like they would say that some people are like you said, almost word for word the same story as you. They're like, oh, come on, man. I'll go on your show. I'll be like, they're doing you a favor sort of thing. And you're like, sweet. Like, it could be an actor or whatever else. And then, gives them absolutely nothing. Like, oh, how's your new movie? Yeah, it's good. And you're like, it's good. That's your fucking answer? Like, what the hell? Like, it's so weird because you have to be like, oh, yeah, what was your favorite part?
Yeah.
Oh, they're all just the same with me after a while. And you're like, oh, you were fuck off. You're like, should I ruin everything I have just to be like, I'll be smart ass then back? And then they'd be like, oh, wait, if you're not going to be professional, like you have to try and be cool about it. Be like, oh, this is not going to sound good to anyone listening. And you sound shit for being on it. Like, why would you come on and just look crap? Like you wouldn't go on TV and just not talk. They think podcasts are different or something. It's literally only audio.
It's kind of like you're making yourself and the person you're getting interviewed by kind of look like they don't know what they're doing and it's kind of unprofessional, which I am unprofessional, but I like to sound professional. I mean, it's just plain and simple. And I felt kind of, my feelings were kind of hurt by it because it was kind of like, I wonder if he was doing it on purpose, because, it was just.
Like he didn't think you were worthy of his like attention or better questions and shit. Like he's like, if I was on a TV show, like he's on fucking Ellen or something, he'd be like, yeah, like dancing and he like giving you like life stories for the smallest question.
That's like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's not good of a talker, but has a podcast.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you had Mike Tyson. I was like, holy shit.
No.
Start off with that comment.
I don't know if I would have Mike Tyson on the show, honestly. I just heard he's such a big prick that I don't know, man. I don't know. It's one of those weird things.
He plays himself so many times in movies that you feel like that can't be a character if he does the same style of person every time. Like he's like, yeah, man, just piss off.
Give me 1 second. I gotta let my dog in my room. Just 1 second.
I wonder what that was.
Whining. Come on. No, I'm sorry. I'm good. My dog was whining at the door. I don't know if you could hear it, so I was just trying to let it in.
I could hear it. Yeah, I wasn't sure what that was like.
Yeah, I was digging on my phone here because I found a video that Murr had sent this. I could send it over to you via email if you would like. He's just talking and stuff like that, which I think is cool. But real quick here, man, as we wind down here, like I said, I'm courteous of everybody's time. What are horror movies in general that have had just like so many sequels, but the sequels continue to really actually be good?
Well, this is my opinion. I guess like it could be different to other people, but I always enjoy the Saw ones. Like, you can give me 50 more Saw movies, fucking loosely connect Jigsaw to however the fuck he's in the storyline, and it'll still be interesting for me. Like, if you can kill people in a weird, fucked up way, kind of like Final Destination in a way, like, you got these weird fucking deaths somehow, and you're always like, it's the same sort of shit every movie, but you're just like, I'm curious to see what it is this time. So I reckon Saw's probably one that's always, I like them.
I agree. And even the new Jigsaw movie that they came out with a couple of years ago, I thought that was actually really good. So I agree with the Saw because you don't know where it's going to go. You don't know what type of deaths Jigsaw is going to come up with this time. You don't know. And I think they kind of made it. I think they did a good job because I think Jigsaw dies in one of them, but I enjoy how he made one girl go crazy and kind of made her now the star of that now. Yeah. So it's kind of, they had a plan for it, because I think some sequels don't have a plan for what they're doing for future movies.
Yeah. They assume they're the last one, so they
fine.
don't really like give anything else to like dangle on.
You know, for me, I enjoy the screams. All the screams that they've only had so many, but I enjoy those.
Yeah, they're good, man. It's like there's quite a few. Like that's the problem. Like those 90 ones they had, like the 90s. I mean, they had ones like I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like Scream sort of came out at the same time roughly, but it was just like they had them. But then Urban Legends, they had like one or two good movies, and then they die off. Where Scream's continuing, and still like, you know, they got the fifth one coming out at some point, where people like just have more love for Scream now than I've never seen so much love for Scream. It's crazy. You're almost like, I'm like, did I miss? Like, I mean, they're good movies, but people love it. It's crazy. I never knew it was that interesting until recently, and everyone's like fucking going on about it. People love Scream.
Well,
Scream
and I
for
also
Scream.
think it's because you're trying to get down to who the main person is that's killing the people. Because I think there's one big God, or I say God in this weird way, but one God that's over the rest of them, like kind of telling them what, kind of like a cult, I guess.
Yeah. You got like an original one where they need that. Oh, I guess they die, but you know, yeah, that's like you say, like that's the premise, and they've kind of got like a formula that works. Like it's always like there's one or two or more people in the Scream outfit. So it's like, you know, at the end it's going to be a big reveal where it's usually someone in the group, and then it's like, oh shit. And then it's like, yeah, remember me, motherfucker, from school, you did this. And you're like, I didn't know that was you. It's always some reveal at the end, but it still hooks you in every time. And that's what I think a lot of these ones where the sequels are all similar, but you just give as many as you can, because there's, you know, you're hooked for it. I'll watch whatever fucking loosely based connection to the last one you've made, because, you know,
Right.
I'm a fan of the movies.
You know, I think in the Screams, the main person putting it on is going to be the newscaster lady, Courtney Cox.
Oh,
because
yeah.
she wrote the books, and I think she's trying to make them legends go on.
That would be that's a good idea for like, that's very plausible. That could be a good reason. Like she needs the material. So her making the deaths herself is just like, well, that's another book. It's good.
Yeah.
Or do you have insider information? Is that how are you leaking something?
I don't have any. I don't have any kind of inside information. I'd love to have Nev Campbell on here. I really would. So Nev Campbell, if you're listening, come on the show, my podcast.
Yeah. Can I ask where you made the name HodgePodge? Like, I feel like that's an English word. How'd you come up with that? Or is that an American word as well?
Sure. Give me 1 second. My dog wants out the door. 1 second. I know we're not professionals.
Yeah, that's fine.
1 second. All that will be edited out. I'm sorry. My dog, they're usually calm when we do this, but for some reason this morning they're kind of acting up. So I do apologize for that. Sure,
boys.
yeah. My name, the HodgePodge Podcast. So my last name happens to be Hodge.
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm a big nerd about a lot of stuff. Like I read everything, you know, history and all that stuff. And so, you know, HodgePodge means a variety of sorts of stuff. I enjoy that. So I was like, why not morph it together and call it the HodgePodge Podcast? Why not? It'd be something interesting.
Catchy.
And a lot of people, and I kind of enjoy this a little bit because it's kind of like, what are you doing? They get the name wrong a lot. like it's supposed to be a capital H and a capital P, and they're morphed together. Some people put dashes in there, or they just call it the HodgePodge with the lowercase p. I think that's what kind of makes it unique, because everybody keeps messing it up.
What do they think it is then? Like HodgePodge, or like they just think it's one word, or just some? I feel like it's a common expression, but obviously not to some. Then.
Okay, so here's how it's usually spelled. It's usually
HODGE.
A capital H and a capital P. But a lot of people will sometimes do this, make it a lowercase p, or they'll, separate the word, or they'll dash it out, stuff like that. So, I mean, they get the name right. They just don't get the spelling or the placement of the letters or words right a lot of the times.
That's just rude.
I'm sorry I don't have a better answer.
No, I'm not like. Oh. No, I was just curious. I was like, I thought it was I didn't expect that. I thought your last name was something else. That's why I didn't realize that was your name. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I thought it was like an English thing where they're like, oh, it's a bit of a hodgepodge, isn't it? Or something like that. And I was like, what a weird thing for an American to pick up, like that's their name. But no, that makes 100% sense as well. I was like, oh.
So, man, before we wind, last couple of questions here as we wind down here. I want to know a little bit about Australia. Now, that's where you're at. You can obviously hear it in your voice, and I know from my research. So, I want to say some things. No, it's not. No, it's not. You're gonna be surprised. I'm gonna name some stuff off that we call here in America, and I want to know what you call it there in Australia. And if you need me to, I can kind of give a definition of what we do.
I've been to America a few times, so this might not be too much of a challenge, but I'm up for it. Lay it on me.
Okay. So what do you call like a soda or Coca-Cola? Is it a soda or a pop?
It's pretty much soft drink. If we don't call it by the brand, it's just soft drink. We don't have different regions of it like you do. Sorry, were you about to say that? What do you call it? Soda pop or some shit?
Let me tell you something. Here in the dirty south of Mississippi, we call it Coke. Like, you're like, get me a Coke. Well, what kind of Coke do you want? Well, give me a Mountain Dew. Well, that's not considered Coke to some people.
Oh,
it's how I've been raised.
It's an umbrella term.
Yeah, you go umbrella. That's like, give me a Coke. Okay, well, I know you like root beer, you like Coca-Cola, you like Dr. Pepper. It's just one of the. We just call it.
If you want a bottle of water, did you say that as well?
Sometimes.
That's so
funny. It's weird because like we have like the big 2 liters, and we're like, just pick us up some Cokes, and then you just get a variety of sorts of the sodas, and it's one of those weird things that a lot of people haven't clasped on to yet.
Yeah, that's cool. We call it like I'll get us a Coke or something like that, but it's usually like a Coke. No. Yeah. Is Mississippi one of them like swampy sort of places, or am I thinking you're more the river sort of thing, like the big paddle boats and
That's Louisiana.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Mississippi.
Because they have like all the Mississippi. I don't really know how to answer that for Mississippi. We don't really have that many swamps. We have like lakes and creeks. It's kind of I would use the word bog, because when it rains here, it's kind of everywhere.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to a swamp somewhere over the States. Next time I go, I want to go there and like, not essentially like, I don't know if a thing called frogging is real, but somewhere where you're like, oh, we went frogging today, and come back with like a bucket full of frogs. And I'm like, I don't want to eat these. I'm just going to let them go. But
I have never been frogging before. but I can give you
Is that a thing?
If you come, dude, I don't know. I've seen it on TV and stuff, but I don't know anyone that's ever frogged. Or, I know like leapfrog, but I don't know frogging, getting a frog. I don't know if that's true. I don't.
Can't be a lot of food. Like, you'd have to get a lot of things. You'd be like, we got dinner. And you're like, tiny fucking frogs left. I've never seen people eat the actual frog's body. It's always just their legs.
I've only eaten frog legs a handful of times, so I don't know if you can and that's what a lot of people are kind of thinking how we are, like you're thinking, and that's not wrong to think, but it's kind of like
sorry, I didn't realize that rude.
No. I'm just no. That's not what I'm meaning it in that way. I'm meaning it kind of as you think that we're Southern, and so we're always we're gonna bring home dinner and stuff like that, but a lot of times. I know one person that I know in my big circle of people that I know that will go and bring supper home every night. One person. And it's like, that's not the life that I want.
Like,
I don't
roadkill? Or like they catch
sometimes they'll hit it. Sometimes they'll run over it in the street like a raccoon, and they'll bring it home and skin the raccoon up and eat it. I swear on everything. No, it is kind of cool. His name. I'm not gonna share his name, but you'd be like, oh, I understand. That's kind of who he is by his name.
Yeah, that's cool. You don't have to say his name. That's awesome. Sorry, I get sidetracked because you were gonna ask me. No, I just realized I derailed your conversation. You go back to what you were saying. No. I'll edit that out if you want.
No, it's all cool. No, I just wanted, and I wasn't trying to be rude by saying that. I wasn't saying you were rude. I was just kind of saying that a lot of people
I said that, not you.
No, I know. It's just everybody thinks that everybody does that, and it's kind of like I understand where they come from because of how the entertainment industry persuades us to be, and it's like. For Australia, I would figure everybody lives in the desert and they eat kangaroo for supper.
Yeah, that's right. Honestly, I guess I made the same assumption when you were. I was like, oh, here you go. Right. Here's the do you ride a kangaroo to work question.
No, I had someone on, and he was talking about how he used to raise kangaroos from what are baby kangaroos called?
Joeys.
A joey. How he raised it from a joey to like an actual kangaroo. And I was kind of like, oh, well, that was kind of interesting. But it was also kind of boring at the same time, because it's like, that's like somebody that raises pigs or raises horses is kind of like, you do the same thing every day.
Yeah. And I mean, they're pretty much raising themselves. Like,
yeah, in the wild.
Yeah. Like, just because they're in your backyard doesn't mean you raise them. Unless you, literally, breastfed it and fucking went to, raised it in a little blanket all day or something.
Well, man,
I don't know who's breastfeeding kangaroos.
Can you breastfeed a kangaroo?
I was going to say, if you breastfed kangaroos, then you could, claim that you raised them. It'd be like, oh, I grew a tree, I raised it. You're like, you just put it in a pot.
And watered it every now and then.
Yeah.
But last
question
man,
I've derailed everything you tried to say.
No, it's look, I love these conversations like this because I know you know how to hold a conversation, and I know how to hold a conversation. So these are my favorites that I do because they're kind of all over the place. But sometimes those are the most streamed podcasts are the ones that's all over the place.
I don't usually get to talk about random subjects. So that's why I kind of I have with talking to you at least, I can throw a different couple things. Like you mentioned something, I'm like, oh, cool. Where it's not normally I'm talking about one movie. So the more you get off track on a movie, the worse whoever's listening's like, fucking talk about the movie again. Like if you're listening to hear about a movie and you're fucking blabbing on about some other shit.
That's like those people that react to like on YouTube, like they react to videos, and they're always pausing it, and talking about it, pausing it, and talking about it, pausing it. You know, it's yeah. I agree 100%. But no,
too late to talk about my YouTube channel.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
No, I made one. I don't have anything on it, but I don't do that. Just to be clear.
No, I don't. I have a YouTube channel strictly for the podcast. So like videos like this will go up there, and then usually the audio. If I have time, I'll transcribe the audio to the video and put it up. But yeah, that's the only reason I have a YouTube for. And sometimes I watch videos here and there. But yeah, but I want to know a little bit more about Australia before we get you off here, if you're cool with that, because I think Australia is a beautiful place. But I wonder, what are people seeing in the entertainment industry, like on movies, et cetera, versus what it's like in real life?
Were you like Crocodile Dundee or something?
Sure. I use the Crocodile Hunter a lot because I was a big fan of that guy, and he's one of the biggest ones from like Australia, and so I realized that it's not all desert like a lot of people would think, and it's not all desert and snakes and kangaroos jumping everywhere, So
what is it pretty like? Accurate anywhere that has a small amount of property, though. Kangaroos are everywhere, man. They're like a plague.
So are kangaroos kind of like deer are here in America? Like you'll see deer in the middle of the road in the middle of the night. Is that kind of how kangaroos are?
Yeah, but they're more...
Really?
Yeah, kangaroo, that's pretty accurate. It's like, if you go anywhere where there's a bit of, like, open land, there's a good chance there'll be kangaroos somewhere.
And can they can beat you up pretty bad if they need to?
That's kangaroos in the desert. I've never seen them, but that's red kangaroos. They're the ones that are dead set jacked, like they're fucking muscly and they're the size of humans. I've never seen one of them in person, but they're the ones, if you see them in real life, start worrying. The normal kangaroos are like, you've probably seen them at zoos and shit. They're like grey and they're like, I don't know, a meter high sort of thing. Probably still
Have you ever seen that? Have you seen that video? I bring that up about the kangaroo. A kangaroo stole a person's dog. I don't know what it was trying to do, but the owner of the dog came to the kangaroo and squared up with him and popped him in the nose. And I remember that kangaroo going down and then started throwing punches. And I was like, oh my God. And that's kind of where that question comes from.
Have you seen their arms? They're like dead set muscly, some of them. It's crazy. And the thing is, like, they could probably do a bit of damage with their paws, but if they get on the tail and fucking boot you, those legs are crazy. Like, I remember seeing like a clip from when I was younger on like a thing they played all the time on like bloopers and that sort of show. And it was some sort of kids show or some show. And they were in a boxing ring and it was a big red kangaroo with some sort of character in just like a suit. And it's there going, like, all that in front of it. And the thing just boots the shit out of it. And whoever's in the suit, like, clearly gets knocked out. And it's all like, gets really fucked. And they're just like passed out on the ground. And it was just like, and then like some people have done it where they're face to face with them. And it's just them attacking. They're like, holy crap, this isn't a joke anymore. Like, yeah. I haven't seen one in real life, but yeah, they're not at petting zoos for a reason, I think.
I would agree.
It's the same reason I don't have like silverback gorillas in the petting zoos.
I use the movie Kangaroo Jack a lot when talking about kangaroos in Australia. Have you ever watched that?
I haven't actually.
It's
an insult to our country.
It's a terrible movie. Is it really? Do you think so?
I don't know. Is it set in Australia or is it a kangaroo? Because Anthony Anderson's in it, right?
Yeah, man. It's set in Australia. I think it's an hilarious movie just from Anthony Anderson's perspective. Just because any movie he's in, he's gonna make it funny, no matter if it's serious.
He's pretty funny.
Nobody else in my family enjoys the movie. Like, and I found it on Netflix recently, and I was like, "Holy crap! It's on Netflix! I gotta watch it." And it's just one of those movies from a kid. But yeah, and they take kangaroos kind of like, there was a scene in the movie where they're flying in a helicopter, and there's this big puddle of water, and there's like 1,000 kangaroos drinking from this one puddle of water, and it's kind of like, is it really like that there, where it's just this big, there's nobody there, it's in the wild, and you're.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Like out in the outback, that's like there's a fact or something, I don't know if you've heard of, that the outback in Australia has, I think, the largest amount of camels, maybe more than Egypt or something like that. Like we have so many camels and shit like that. Like the shit just runs wild out there. It's crazy. There's like pigs, like big boars, and I think there's a lot of wild horses and shit like that, but like there's stuff like that. But yeah, the kangaroos and stuff, like we only have to go to like any winery where there's big green grassy hills and you'll see like tons of kangaroos and shit like that. And then there's like a good amount of them on the road as well. But like, do you know what a wombat is?
A little bit. Like I
basically
kind of
like a tree
little
stump.
bit, and it's okay.
Like it's an animal, but I've seen them in the wild. They're pretty weird.
So what do they? What do wombats do? Like
wombats
they just
have. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to dazzle you with a fact.
What I was going to ask. Okay, go ahead.
Wombats have square shit.
Like actual square, or
yeah, cubes.
So hang on a second. If they have squared feces, does that mean? And I'm not trying to be funny or nasty here, but does that mean their anuses are square as well?
I never thought about that too. You were about to say that. I was like, I've never thought of that. I don't know if you can like stack them like Lego, but I'm pretty sure they're cube.
Okay.
Like if you can Google that, it definitely mentions it. And I was like, what? But yeah, they're another thing that hangs around. But they're like basically if you run them over, like because there's certain areas where they're on the road, like that's the roadkill. Like your friend would be like loving it. And it's just kangaroos everywhere, all dead on the side of the road. But then wombats just like a solid ball of like an animal sort of thing that they're big enough that they don't fit under a car comfortably. So a car like can just get so fucked up. But yeah, that was all I was going to say, is that they have square shit. It's a nice little interesting fact for you. I think that's unique to no other animal.
Other than a rabbit kind of has pebbles or pellets type of. So.
Did you see that Get Duked movie?
I don't even think I've ever heard of that.
It's on Prime Video. That was like the rabbits were eating mushrooms, like magic mushrooms, and then because it ferments in them and then they shit, you could eat the rabbit shit, and it was like everyone was getting high.
No, I think I'll pass. I think I'll pass on that.
It's not the focus point of the movie, though.
Last question here, Ben. As we wind down.
Yep. Sorry.
What is your favorite horror? No. What's your favorite horror movie of all time?
Oh, so hard. I always change my answer for these sort of ones.
Give me your top 3.
All right, just off the top of my head, I really liked Hostel. I enjoyed that a lot.
Okay.
I enjoyed Saw. I mentioned that a lot. And oh fuck. I don't know. I'm just going for 3 I can think of at the top of my head. And then the Texas Chainsaw remake. That one was like one I watched growing up, and I just love that so much.
Yeah. Me too.
Good memories.
I prefer.
What about you?
I prefer the Texas Chainsaw remakes over the originals because I did grow up on those. My top 3 would be I like the Conjuring series. Have you ever watched those?
Yeah, I always forget about that. Yeah, Conjuring's fucking the tits.
I enjoyed that.
Fuck.
Texas Chainsaw, and then, man, what is one that's always on that every time it's on I watch? I enjoy the Friday the 13th. I would throw like Nightmare on Elm Street in as an honorable mention. Halloween is an honorable mention. But I do enjoy Texas Chainsaw, the Conjurings, and then the Friday the 13th. Those are what I enjoy.
Conjuring's awesome, man. The first one's like genuinely scary. Like,
now, do you know? Here's a quick fact about The Conjuring. I was listening to one of my heroes, Chris Jericho. I was listening to his podcast, and he had one of the daughters on that was involved. The Conjuring's based upon.
Oh, from that family.
From the family, and she said the movie is so accurate that they had to take so much stuff out of it for it to even be released. Because if they would have kept, basically what they did was, as scary as that movie is, they died down all the scenes in the movie because it would have been released as like an MCA, one of those like TV mature movies that would have been released anywhere. I don't think it was a waste because I enjoyed the movies how they were. They
were good anyway. It's only when you hear that you're like, we'll make a director's cut. Make the family.
I think they actually did make a director's cut.
Yeah, they probably did. I never buy those it's a different version of the DVD. I too much of a tight, so I just get whatever I can get.
I usually buy. I don't really buy DVDs as much unless I've watched the movie in the theater and I really enjoyed it. Or if it's like Jeepers Creepers 3, that was kind of like a direct-to-video or direct-to-DVD, so I kind of bought that and went that route with that. But yeah, I don't really buy DVDs or anything like that anymore. I kind of Netflix and TV for me, really.
If you're not collecting them, it's kind of like there's so many streaming apps now that like have erased the need to collect them. Like essentially, like you don't have to get them because you're like, TV movies are shit. Like there's nothing on. I don't want to watch something with ads, but yeah, like I only collect horror movies now just for the sake of like having a shitload of them. But I could see like streaming. I use streaming apps like all the time. They're the best. You guys have way more shit than we do, but pretty good.
Well, look, man, I kept you for over an hour here, almost 90 minutes, which I'm very grateful for. So go ahead and give out everything you want to give out, your socials, your podcast, anything you want to promote, go ahead.
All right, here we go. Name's Daniel Craig, the Creepy Crap Podcast. I'm on all the major podcast platforms. Fucking hell, spit it out. I'm on the major podcast platforms. Spotify, iTunes, all that sort of shit. You can get me on the Creepy Crap Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, the Creepy Crap Pod, and then just Facebook, the Creepy Crap Podcast page, or the Daniel Crapster ones connected to it. And that's the main ones you can get me. I also have the YouTube channel, but I haven't really done anything with that yet. Just waiting to upgrade my setup. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The Creepy Crap Podcast. If you want to hear Australian horror podcast that talks about crapper movies and lesser known ones, I'm your man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Daniel, look, I really do appreciate you coming on here. I know it was last minute and we kind of just decided, hey, you want to do the podcast? Sure, right now, let's go. And it was kind of just like that. So
I'm not used to just talking about stuff on the fly. If that wasn't obvious.
No, I got you. But look, I appreciate you doing this for me, man. I really do. And I enjoyed our talk. Maybe we get you back on.
I would like that. You're good to talk to, man. It was easy. I mean, like I've never talked to you briefly apart from a couple minutes on Facebook. And then suddenly we're having like a 90-minute conversation. So, I mean, that's usually a good sign that I don't hate you. Not boring me. If anything, you're probably sick of me. Every time you talked, I go on a tangent about something else. It's the curse.
No, it's all good. That's the great thing about podcasts and talking. Without a specific route we're going, and I think that's what makes great podcasts.
Yeah, just doing it on the fly.
Yeah, man. Well, look, have a good one. Hopefully we'll talk to you later. We'll get you back on, and we'll talk more horror movies.
Yeah, sounds awesome, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, appreciate it. Have a good one.
No worries.
All right, bye-bye.
Cool.